Make sure my phone is off here. Ms. Legalista here. Ms. Legalista here. Thank you for joining today, bright and early. Well, it's not so early now. I guess it's approaching lunchtime, depending upon what time you got up. I'm an early riser, so yes, it's going to be lunchtime in a few. Thanks for joining. I am going to be going back to talk about Graceland. Remember, there was that whole fake foreclosure, and people sort of think that this doesn't have anything to do with me. That's Elvis Presley's house. And yeah, but maybe it does. Maybe you're wondering, well, wait a second. If they can do that to Elvis, can they do that? Can they do that to me? Can they go after my house like that? Well, we're going to dig into the details, but let's take a couple of steps back before we get started, just to cement you, get you to understand what's going on with this property. Where is this property located? When did he buy it? How much did he pay for it? How much money are we talking about here? If somebody's able to come in and steal Graceland with a fake foreclosure, like what kind of money does this estate have? So I want to go back for a second and talk about Graceland. Yeah, there's some people out there who might not know. It's like, so it's his house, right? Yes, it's the home of Elvis Presley, king of rock and roll, and it's located in Memphis, Tennessee. Now, it's on this street called Elvis Presley Boulevard, but that's not the original name. The original name is something else. It used to be a farm with animals and whatever. But it's a little over 13 acres now with this estate where the house is. So it is now I think what they say on the website is the second highest visited private residence in the country after, what do you think it is? The White House. That's right. After the White House. So, like I said, it's located in Memphis. It started out at about 10,000 square feet when they bought it. Okay. But you move into a house, you do some renovations. They did the same thing with Graceland. So it's over about 17,000 square feet. Think about that. That's like 5 or 6 houses in one house. That's where Graceland was and what it looked like. And it wasn't just Elvis who was staying there. It was also other relatives like his parents. And I think one of his aunts stayed there too. But look, they've got plenty of room. Like I said, it's like 5 or 6 houses in one house. But who owns it now? Well, it's still in the family. There's a trust that's been set up. And that's who got sued. This fake foreclosure company is like, hey, we're going to sue this trustee, which was actually Elvis's granddaughter, and this trust, Promenade Trust. But let me stop here for a second and speak to this real estate trust for a minute, because I've had people reach out to me and say, I saw some stuff on TikTok and they're really talking about putting your homes and your personal property in a trust to protect it. I'm going to need some of you to step back, take a step back from TikTok, because a lot of you don't even understand what that means or what that looks like. My advice would be to sit down with your personal CPA, your banker, and your attorney to figure out if a trust is actually something that you need. Because you call me up saying, hey, can I put my house? I've got my house here. I want to go ahead and put that in a trust to protect it. A lot of times what you don't realize is there is something called a due on sale clause that is in your deed of trust. If you still have a mortgage on this property, if you are still paying the bank and you try to transfer this property to another entity that then has ownership of the property, that due on sale clause without the lender's permission may entitle that lender to now say, hey, you know what? Well, we want all of it. We can accelerate the loan now, ask for everything that's owed on it. And if you can't pay, well, so take a step back and understand, just because it's something that was on TikTok doesn't necessarily mean it's something for you. So understand, sit down with your attorney, your CPA, whoever does your taxes, whoever is helping you put together your estate plan to figure out if a trust is for you. But yes, Graceland, the property itself was in a trust. Let's see, the amount of money that he paid for it. This is going to sound like it's so little compared to what we know housing prices are now. $102,000, I think is what I'm seeing here. $102,000 for this 10,000 square foot house and 13 acres. Okay. A little over 100,000. But that was back in 1957, right? So we really do expect that, yes, that was going to be low in comparison for today. But what is that property worth now? Anything from 400 to 500 million. That's the estimates that I'm getting. So think about that. Somebody trying to come in and steal Graceland, this property that's worth 400 to 500 million dollars. See, most of us think, oh, well, nobody's going to come after me because I don't have property like that. They're not trying to steal, that from me. But the fact is, if they will go after Graceland, they will go after anybody. The scammers will go after anybody. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about what happened with this Graceland foreclosure so you can still understand how this can happen to you. And one of the things that I want to show you in just a second is one of the documents, because there were a lot of clues that if you look at it, you go, I'm not sure a company who's dealing in private lending and investing would have done that. But okay, I guess we're going to let that slide. All right, so there was this fake foreclosure, and the company that came after the property was called Nosany Investments and Private Lending LLC, supposedly out of Missouri, but there's no registration for that LLC in Missouri or any other state, according to what I've been able to find. They're saying they had a deed of trust and they had scheduled a sale date. They said Lisa Marie Presley had signed this deed of trust for $3.8 million. Okay, so she was going to get the 3.8 million. They were going to have a lien on the property until she paid them back. They said, well, she didn't pay us back, so now we're going to foreclose on the property. Well, of course, this raises a lot of eyeballs if you're saying you're going to foreclose on Graceland. So if you really want to scam, why put yourself out there in the limelight like that? It really tells you something about the people who are doing this. All right, so they even had this sales date. They had a senior collections agent sign it. But here's what I want to show you. I want to show you this document that was filed so that you can actually see what I'm talking about here. Let's see if I can bring it up. All right, this thing right here. If you look up here at the top of this, where they're talking about NIPL, which is Nosany Investments and Private Lending, and you see this email address. Now, imagine for a second, you're this big company and you're doing all of this, investing and lending, and $3.8 million is one of your deals. And the email address for your company is NIPL collections at outlook.com. You are being privy to, financial information that you want to keep secure, and yet you don't even have a company email address. You're using outlook.com. And what you're looking at is what got filed with, as you can see right there, the Superior Court of California, County of Los Angeles. And you go over here, they filed this from their supposed collections department. And this is the address that they use. And this is what I mean when I'm talking about, if you put eyeballs on this thing, you realize that I don't think this looks like it's legitimate, because some of the things that were going on in the background just didn't make sense. If you dig hard enough, you will find all sorts of question marks that pop up. And you have the news media that has been out there doing that. All right, so they tried to foreclose on this. The granddaughter, Elvis's granddaughter, who was a trustee, Riley Coe, who's an actress now, was having none of this. She's like, let me get my lawyers. Lawyers, please take care of this. And that's what they did. They filed their own complaint against the parties, alleging fraud, getting an injunction to stop the foreclosure sale, and basically teasing out all of this. Everything from, hey, that deed of trust that was signed that had a notarized signature on it. Well, we tracked down the real notary, and the real notary said, I never notarized Lisa Marie Presley signing anything. So again, her lawyers pipe up and they say, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. The whole thing is a fraud. The whole thing is a fraud. So the judge gets this. They're ready. I'm telling you, Nosany investments and private lending, they're ready to sell, which makes you they're ready for the foreclosure sale, which makes you wonder what they would have done after this. Like, how far were they really going to go with this scam? Were they going to go to the very end? So the judge, after getting this complaint from the trustee, Riley Coe, on behalf of Promenade Trust, says we're halting the whole thing. This is a stop. There's not going to be any foreclosure sale of Graceland. And you can imagine the news media is just like, we're ready to show up to see what happens here, to see who these Nosany people are. All right. And it wasn't just the judge. Let me tell you what the AG said. The AG was basically like the attorney general in Tennessee, upset over the whole thing. They issue a press release and they say here, my office has fought fraud against homeowners for decades, and there is no home in Tennessee more beloved than Graceland. I have asked my lawyers to look into this matter, determine the full extent of any misconduct that may have occurred, and identify what we can do to protect both Elvis Presley's heirs, and anyone else who may be similarly threatened. I think he was personally, I think he was personally bothered by what happened. But anyway, so now we've got the judge saying, no, the foreclosure sale is not going forward. We've got the attorney general, I think his name is Jonathan Schremetti, saying, oh, wait, because now we're going to start an investigation. I've got my lawyers looking into what's going on. And then we have the media. So all this time, all of this stuff is going on. Again, like I said, if they can go after Graceland, they can go after anybody. We've got the media. Now, if you think about the purpose of the media, generally they say, well, we're here to report the news, to get the information out, to investigate, to ask questions, to maybe hold people and companies accountable. Well, in this case, the media becomes part of the story too, because now you have accusations or allegations that there were some Nigerians behind this, and maybe there was this grandma over in Branson, Missouri. And the media is saying, we are actually getting letters, we're getting emails from someone claiming to be with an identity theft ring of Nigerians, and we're behind it. We're behind it. We do this all the time. This is what we do. We scam people and we try to get assets and property and money. Now the news media is involved also. And not just in terms of receiving emails, you've actually got media going out there and saying, we're going to do that investigative part. And we're going to look at, remember I talked about the email address? Well, there's also an address up there. They start digging around into the names. Where did this come from? And they trace things back to a woman located in Branson, Missouri, who, according to some news reports, has this really long rap sheet of fraud. And so now you have the Nigerians on one side claiming that they're responsible, and the grandma on the other side who is saying she's not responsible, but there are all of these things that link back to her. So make it make sense, because it really doesn't. So now the media is involved in this, not just as a reporter, the people doing the investigative work, they are now part of this whole story that is going on. So they're trying to figure it out too. All of these people are working on this, and we'll continue to see where it goes. But the question is, can this happen to you? Now, here's what I tell clients all the time. They think that they have to, be in a situation where maybe they have done something wrong in order to get sued. Maybe I don't know, But what I tell them though is anybody can sue you. They just have to go to court and prove it. And you have to defend yourself. You have to show up and be able to provide documentation, to be able to bring witnesses forward who will stand with you to say, no, that's wrong, that's a fraud. You have to be able to do what Riley Coe did on behalf of the prominent trust and the estate. And so a lot of times, what I need people to understand is yes, someone can try to do this to you. They may not succeed, just like they did not succeed in her case, but you have to do the very same thing that she did. And that is you have to stand up for yourself. So a lot of times, here's what happens. People will get a complaint and they won't respond. They don't know what to do. They don't necessarily know an attorney. They want to stick their head in the sand. You've been there, right? Things come in the mail and you're just like, I can't deal with that right now. I can't deal with another thing right now. And so you don't respond to the complaint. Well, if you don't respond, they can get a summary judgment in their favor and they can walk away with everything that they asked for. Now, they still have to show up in court and say, yes, here are my documents. Yes, here are my witnesses. Yes, here's how I prove everything here. And that's what these scammers could have done with Graceland had Riley Coe not stepped in, had her attorneys not stepped up and said, no, we're going to fight this. This is not what you're going to get away with. But many of us don't, necessarily have attorneys on the payroll, right? Your family budget doesn't necessarily include paying for an attorney, keeping an attorney on retainer for just some personal stuff that might come up. So, yeah, you're sticking your head in the sand, you're putting it off, you're procrastinating, and you wake up one day to find out your house is gone. Well, how likely is this going to happen to you? What's the odds? Well, probably small that it will happen to you like this. Can they steal your home through a fake, fraudulent foreclosure process like they tried to do with Graceland? Well, they can try, but that's usually not the way it works. Usually what happens is you have someone who is already in a situation where their finances are challenged. So they're behind on a few payments and they're trying to work something out with the lender. Maybe they're trying to bring in extra income. So there's some things that they're trying to do. The fraud and the scam usually appears from these third parties who say, hey, we have a loan modification program. Yes, and we can help you get back on track and stay in your home and keep your home for future generations. They say all of that, and it's a scam. None of it's true. What they do is they take your money. They say, yes, here's how much you have to pay. We will now work with your lender to get you a loan modification. Well, here's the thing. Generally, that loan modification program is something you have to have a conversation with about your lender. Your lender is the only one who can really come in most cases and make changes to that agreement. So this third party can say a lot of things, but in the end, it's going to be you and that lender who agree to changes. They will collect fees from you. And then what will happen is you will find out that they have done absolutely nothing. The foreclosure process will continue. You will have paid out all of this money to this third party only to lose your home. And that's how it usually occurs. That's the way fraudulent foreclosure processes usually work. Loan modification is one of them. And I want to talk about a second one. The second one has to do with title fraud. Yes, they tell you, hey, here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do. We have a program for you. I hear that you're going through some things. I'm going to send you some paperwork that we're going to need you to sign. We'll have a notary on site to make sure that everything's legitimate, valid, legal, like it should be. And the documents that you sign will allow us to go ahead and take over those payments for you. You no longer will have that worry, have that concern, have that stress. We'll take over those payments for you. And then when you get back on your feet and in a better financial position, you can buy back the home from us. We're just going to have the title in our name and take care of it and hold it. We're going to record everything. And then that way, when you're back up on your feet and your credit score is back up there and you can get a new loan, you'll be able to do so. That's what they say to you. And so, yes, you sign over that title to them. And guess what? They make no payments to that lender. Absolutely none. And there you go. You've got thousands of dollars out the window with this title fraud. And here comes the bank ready to foreclose, because guess what? The bank was never receiving any of those payments that you were paying to this company that said, hey, put it in our name, and we will take care of you. We got your back. But it wasn't necessarily the case. So while the fraud that most people get introduced to when it comes to foreclosure fraud is not quite like what happened with Graceland, because that was just over the top. Like I said, you got Nigerians and grandma, you got checks, you got, the whole sale ready to take place. You got fake affidavits by a notary who, you got fake notary over here, but real affidavits over here by the real notary that's saying, yes, that over there is a fake. I mean, it was so over the top, so completely over the top. But that's generally not how it happens. It's usually a lot simpler. And usually it has to do with loan modification. So you're talking about loan modification fraud, or either title fraud. They're taking your title, telling you that, they're going to go ahead and pay this and that you can get the title back. They'll buy it back to you. There's even a whole agreement that the parties will sign, but you never get the property back because the property is foreclosed on. They never pay anything. So that's what you need to be concerned about. If you're ever in a situation where, first of all, somebody is filing a complaint against you, always respond. I tell people, understand what's going on. Unless it's something, for instance, there's a lot of, credit card unsecured debt out there, does not have a lien on any of your property, but can, once they get a judgment, decide whether or not you need to respond to that. A lot of times, in most instances, it's your debt, right? And you're just like, I got laid off, I had surgery, I was in an accident, and yes, I got behind. Yes, it's mine. Yes, all of the numbers look right. Yes, I did receive all of the notifications. And so more than likely, when you show up in court, yes, the other party is going to be able to get a judgment against you. It doesn't happen in those cases where you're able to prove a few things, like it was identity theft, it was not me, okay? Or the whole thing is a fraud, wasn't me. And you then have to be able to show up with some documentation to be able to substantiate that, right? Otherwise, they're going to walk away with a judgment against you for the amount that they're seeking in court. So there are some times when you do need to show up. And it can be really hard now. It can be really hard because I've told you time and time again, scammers are working 24/7. They don't take weekends or vacations. And so we really need to, be more vigilant about staying on top of our financial matters. Most of us would not say to ourselves, you know what, let me go to the county, court system and type in my name and see what's there. Is anybody filing anything against me that I don't know about? You know, we're used to saying, oh, yes, let me check my credit report to see if there are any credit accounts that have been opened in my name that don't belong to me. Let me stick my, social security and name number in there to double check that. So we're used to that sort of thing. But, the amount of fraud that's going on has increased and gone through the roof. So be vigilant. Keep your eyes open, your ears open, and try to learn a little bit more about what's going on. So I hope this has gotten you a little bit more informed about, what's going on with Graceland, where they are with this whole fraud thing, and whether or not this can happen to you. I'm going to shut this thing down now because I got another call in just a little bit. But don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. Mwah. Peace.